What did you say? You didn't graduate from college? That's ridiculous. You're joking, right? The mocking laughter directed at my father. Confronting my irritation was the statement, "Your parents only finished high school and run their own business? That's just not good enough. You, as a marriage partner for Nick, are disqualified." That was the verdict. My name is Mary. I'm 25 and just got engaged to my boyfriend Nick. He's, to put it nicely, a dependable man who takes charge. But on the downside, he can be a bit arrogant and stubborn. No one is perfect, and I certainly have my fair share of flaws. It's important to compliment and elevate each other's good and bad points. That's why I decided to marry him. But there's something I just can't tolerate. It's our different attitudes toward money. Nick seems to have grown up in a wealthy family and is quite casual about money. He dislikes being stingy, and to him, the word saving might as well be, "What's that? Is it tasty?" For example, if I made a homemade lunch, he'd say, "Huh? Homemade lunch? If you're gonna make something, at least spend more money to make it luxurious. It's embarrassing." That's just not fair when I put effort into making it for a date. If I take out a water bottle because I'm thirsty, he'd say, "If you're thirsty, why don't we just go to that cafe? Being stingy is so unattractive. It's like saying you have no money, which is embarrassing." A cafe for just a little thirst seems excessive. When I suggest he should visit an ENT doctor if he hears things like I have no money, he says he doesn't hear such hallucinations. What's with that? When I find a piece of clothing I like and want to buy it, he's shocked. No way! I've never seen a piece of clothing that doesn't cost over $100. When I ask if his socks cost over $100, he says they don't. He sulks and says, "Socks aren't clothes." But I think socks are underwear, and underwear is clothing. If I point that out, he gets irritated and shouts, "Shut up! Poor people should just keep quiet." I hate that phrase. Now is the time for eco-friendliness and saving. Mocking that and presumptuously labeling someone as poor is disrespectful. I tell him his condescending attitude will make him disliked, but he just laughs it off. "Sorry for being rich. You, being poor, wouldn't understand the mindset of the wealthy. You should try harder." It's you. I swallow the words I want to say back. Saying them would only lead to a fight. Why am I with such a man? Well, he has his good points. We met at the same company. It all started when he covered for a mistake I made. When I thanked him, he returned a refreshing smile, like the scent of mint. Now, his constant bragging about being rich is getting on my nerves. Yesterday, I went to look at suits at that high-end brand store. Yeah, it's crazy how everything looks good on me. The salesperson was like, "You look great in these." So I ended up buying all 3 suits. Well, the salesperson is just doing their job, with a business smile. By the way, that tacky purple suit should never make another appearance at the office. A client made a face the moment they saw it. It's fine for television appearances, though. Huh? Me? A handsome guy who looks good on TV? Yeah, maybe it's because my wealth is apparent. That's not it. You should spend more on grooming yourself. Whoa, did you notice that? That woman who just passed by definitely looked at me. I'm wearing a cheap outfit that totals only about $1,000 today. Thinking of buying a new car. What, I just bought one last year? Well, I have so much money, I need to spend it. It's not me choosing the money chooses me. Endless bragging about being rich. I don't really understand the last part. I wonder if I'm the only one who can stay with such a person and just laugh it off. It's almost like a joke, and my friends always give me a wry smile when they see me laughing along. But honestly, if I could just properly handle his constant bragging about wealth, he'd be a fairly enjoyable person. That's why I thought it would be okay to marry him, and when he proposed, I was so happy I cried. At that moment, he said, "I knew it! I knew it! You, being poor, must be overjoyed to marry a rich guy like me. It's a real marry up, isn't it?" So I just went blank-faced and said, "Maybe we should call it off," which made him panic. My fiancé, despite his excessive bragging about wealth, does love me in his own way. I'm nervous. I held my chest, feeling my heart might just jump out due to the intense nervousness. Today is the day of the family meeting. I barely slept last night due to the nerves, so I'm pretty sleep-deprived. High-strung, you could say. I slathered on foundation because I looked pale, and he said, "You look like a mannequin." So I hurriedly fixed it in the bathroom of the station we passed. We took a taxi from the station to his parents' mansion. Seeing that luxurious mansion, I felt like turning back. The big house was partly hidden behind large walls and well-maintained pine trees. I could see that the large pine tree beyond the wall was well-maintained. The gate itself was beautifully designed. As we passed through the gate, the garden was even more impressive than I imagined from the outside. Across the magnificent garden was a large pond, almost big enough to swim in. Elegant koi fish, red, white, and gold, swam gracefully in the pond. Their swimming seemed so serene, a feeling of ease. Just having a pond in a private garden is surprising, let alone such a world of fantasy. I definitely felt out of place. I don't regret deciding to marry him, but thinking about marrying into this family, well, that's something I'm starting to regret, a bit, or rather, quite a bit. Marriage should be about the two people involved, but it seems it's not going to be that simple. The courage I mustered when leaving my house was quickly fading away. Finally, we arrived at the mansion after crossing the garden. Inside, I was led to a room in the back, where his parents were sitting on a sofa in a large living room. Both stood up. "Ah, good to see you. I'm Nick's father." "Pleased to meet you. I'm Nick's mother." Contrary to my expectations, they seemed quite gentle, which brought a bit of relief. Still unable to completely relax, I sat down, facing coffee and cookies, and the family meeting proceeded in a friendly manner. It seemed like it would end without any issues. Just when I let out a sigh of relief, John changed the topic with a serious look. "So, what do Mary's parents do? As you can see, my father's business has been hugely successful. I'm the second generation. Nick plans to take over as the third generation someday. Currently, he's working in a different company for experience. My wife, by the way, is a homemaker." My dad runs a factory." "A factory?" John tilted his head at my explanation. "My father manages a factory that has been in our family since my grandfather's time, manufacturing a certain kind of unique part. It's not a large factory, but the parts we handle are quite rare and highly valued." "Interesting. And which university did your father graduate from?" "University? No, my father graduated from a technical college." "Why do they assume it has to be a university?" I answered, puzzled and tilting my head. At that moment, John burst out laughing. "Aha! What? Didn't graduate from college? Is this some kind of joke?" "That's right. A father who didn't even go to college? And what about your mother?" She works in the office at Dad's company." "Oh my, she works too? Can't even afford to hire employees? How terrible." His parents laughed together, leaving me dumbfounded, and I just answered their questions. Their laughter grew louder. At that moment, I realized his parents were looking down on mine. "Look, I know my father only graduated high school, but he's proud of his work." I couldn't hold back and replied, only to be interrupted by, "Hey, Mary, what are you saying?" It was Nick. "What do you mean, what?" "I didn't know either, but I guess it's understandable that they laugh if he's just a high school graduate." "What do you mean?" It was John who continued Nick's words. "Mary, let me tell you, being just a high school graduate is not good. You get it? Of course, Nick and I graduated from college. A capable person is one who can study. Not being able to study means you lack fundamental knowledge. Do you think such a person can succeed?" "That's right. My husband and Nick are capable. That's why they graduated from college. My husband was recognized for his excellence and became the president of a major company. And Nick will become a president too because of his excellence in college. It's a realm far beyond what a high school graduate could reach." "But my dad..." "Okay, enough. I get it. Mary, arguing with us about everything seems to be of low caliber too. We're successful, so we're right. But you can't even listen to that? No common sense. Someone like you isn't suitable for our son." "What?" "Really. We wondered what kind of person would come, but this is a huge disappointment. Your parents are high school graduates with their own business? That's not even worth discussing. Mary, you're disqualified as Nick's marriage partner." "What?" I couldn't believe it. I felt out of place, but to be opposed for such a reason? And disqualified? What does that even mean? How condescending can you be? It's one thing to speak ill of me, but I couldn't stand them speaking ill of my parents. What did Nick think about all this? When I glanced at him, I saw him smirking unbelievably. Nick? Ugh, can't be helped. If my parents oppose it, there's nothing I can do. So, no marriage then. Too bad, Mary. You won't be able to marry me. He didn't argue with his parents. Didn't say he wanted to marry me. He didn't stand up for me. In that moment, everything I felt for him disappeared. My love for him completely vanished. Feeling this, I stood up silently. "Excuse me," I said, leaving behind only those words. All I could hear behind me was laughter. The despicable laughter that looked down on me and my parents. As I walked away briskly, a voice called out from behind. It was Nick. "What?" "Hey, give it back!" "Excuse me?" "The engagement ring! I shouldn't have given it to you! What a waste of money!" Once we were supposed to be in love, but for his last words to be like that, it's the worst. I yanked off the ring and threw it at Nick. What a waste I was, too! I want back all the wasted time I spent with you. Saying that, I finally left the mansion. I'm so angry. I stabbed the steak with my fork roughly, and my father, startled, said, "You're scaring me, Mary." It's been a few days since that infuriating family meeting, and I was back at my parents' house. Why? Because today was supposed to be the day he visited my parents with me. I couldn't bring myself to tell my parents exactly what his had said. I just said, "They think people who didn't study well are no good." That probably didn't explain everything, but my parents just gently patted my head and didn't press further. I was so grateful for their understanding that I cried. So for a change of mood, though not exactly drowning my sorrows in alcohol, I ended up at this steakhouse. Even as I eat delicious food, I feel sick every time I remember his family's words and expressions. I could have tolerated just the bragging about wealth, but I can't forgive his parents' attitude, and him for allowing it. I've moved on, and my feelings have completely cooled off, but the anger doesn't seem to subside easily. The more I remember, the hungrier I get from anger. You can order more if you want. The best way to forget a heartbreak is to eat, my mother said gently. I was about to cry again, and wiped my eyes roughly, smiling. Then I'll have a T-bone. And, Dad, want a drink? Oh, well then. That was when it happened. Isn't that Mary over there? A voice I never wanted to hear again and wished to forget reached my ears. Ugh, Nick? I turned around hesitantly, and there was Nick, standing with his parents. Why here of all places? This is my hometown, the place where my father was born and raised, where I grew up. Why do I have to meet them here? As I turned pale at the dreadful coincidence, John said, "Oh, aren't the poor stretching themselves too thin? This place is expensive, you know." He's as unpleasant as ever. "Why are you here, Mary?" "That's my line. This is my hometown, Nick. Why are you here?" "Ah, I'm here because Dad was born around here. We stopped by after visiting our ancestor's grave. You know, this place is famous, often featured on TV, right?" What a terrible coincidence. As expected, their comments were full of sarcasm. "Mary, don't leave without paying, okay? It's not good to become reckless just because I broke up with you." "Mary, maybe you should just drink water and leave. This place is really expensive, after all." "Mary, even if you're struggling with money, don't come to my son for help, okay? If you're nice to poor people once, they take advantage of you. I've decided not to indulge them." In their eyes, my family was completely poor and couldn't afford to pay here. We're just normal, and I can pay for this place with my own earnings. It's infuriating, but responding to them is just a waste of time. I decided to ignore them. But then, I was nudged unexpectedly. It was my father. My father whispered to me, "Mary, who are those people?" I replied quietly, "My ex-fiancé's family." Then, my father stroked his chin and nodded thoughtfully, saying, I wondered what he was thinking when he suddenly whispered, "Since we're here, maybe I should say hello." I was puzzled, especially because he had a mischievous smile. I don't really understand it, but that face seems to have some meaning. I stood up and said to John, my dad would like to say hello, if that's okay." Well, sure. It's not often poor people get to talk to someone like me. It'll be a good memory for them. How condescending can he be? I was irritated, but my dad patted my shoulder, somehow keeping my anger in check. Then my dad stepped forward, smiling broadly, his family looking equally puzzled. Watched as my dad said cheerfully, "Long time no see." Both his family and I were confused. My mother, remaining seated, sipped her coffee, disinterested. What's going on? My father then said, John, it's been a while." John's father was shocked. John? David? Oh, yeah, you remember. We're both so old now. I didn't understand for a moment. No, neither do I. Is it really David? We were all dumbfounded. It turns out my father and John were classmates. My father had never left this land since he was born, but John moved away right after middle school when his grandfather became successful. Such an unexpected reunion. So you opposed your daughter's marriage because her parents weren't well educated? You mean Mary's parents? You, the high school graduate who runs a factory. That's right. I'm the high school graduate you laughed at. Ugh. What's with the ew? Neither I, nor he, nor Jane understood. My father, still smirking, explained, "This guy had the worst grades in middle school." What are you saying? It's true, isn't it? You used to come crying to me all the time before exams. John, flustered by my father's revelation, couldn't stop him. Bad at studying means no good? So you're no good then. You were at the bottom of our class in middle school, and your high school wasn't exactly top tier, was it? That's not true. It's a well-known high school. Well, that high school's reputation soared only in recent years, but our generation knows that going there meant no future. Seriously. I asked Nick about John's high school, and looked it up. It recently became a top school, but before that, what a surprise. Wow. I blurted out. But I graduated from college. It's strange, isn't it? I heard a weird rumor about how impossible it would have been to get into college from that high school. Something about using money for backdoor admission. No way! That's not true! It's been decades since then. The truth is probably hidden in the darkness, unknowable now. But John's frantic reaction seemed to say it all. Dad, by the way, how were your grades in middle school? Oh, I was always at the top, and in high school too. I never knew that. My dad never talked about it. Not something worth talking about, right? But then, why didn't you go to college? I didn't have anything particular I wanted to learn. Instead, I thought it'd be more useful to go to a technical school, learn specialized skills, and get a certificate for work at the factory. I still study various things on my own, though. As we all stood dumbfounded, my father tapped John's shoulder. But you're amazing, you know. You couldn't even solve elementary school problems. And now you're a company president? You really worked hard. My father seemed genuinely impressed, but John retorted, Shut up! Don't be so familiar. I'm a successful man. I'm not like you. And left the restaurant in a pathetic manner. Nick and Jane hurriedly followed him. After the whirlwind of events, I could only mutter, what was that all about? Years later, after not meeting Nick's family again, I received an unexpected phone call from Nick. He had quit his job right after that incident to join his father's company, rumored to be preparing for succession. Why call now, after all this time? Just when I was wondering what was going on, I was told that the company had gone bankrupt. If you ask me, management is in shambles due to his own unreasonable management policies. Competent employees had all left, and only the incompetent father and son Nick and a few others remained. The employees who had left formed a new successful company, quickly overshadowing and leading to the bankruptcy of Nick and John's company. Now, they were jobless and penniless. Hey Mary, I saw a magazine at a bookstore mentioning your dad's company. It's thriving and very successful, isn't it? Indeed it was. I quit my job to help at my father's factory, and his passion and drive were astonishing. The factory had grown significantly due to handling unique parts and high precision. However, my father does not retire from the field to relax, and continues to work hard at the field today. I often get interviewed on TV and in magazines, but I never thought I'd see it. Can you hire me? I'm such a great talent. Many places want me. I'm willing to work at your place out of old time's sake. I couldn't help but burst out laughing, because I know. Nick was still looking down on others and getting rejected at every interview. He must have been desperate to come to me. With that attitude, he couldn't hope to be employed. We're quite full with capable people. If you're so in demand, find another place. What? But you'll regret not working with me, your beloved. Too bad. My love belongs to my husband now. What? And my 2 adorable children? What? So I'll have to decline your application to our company. What a pity, huh? With those words echoing the pity I had once heard, I hung up. I thought I heard him wailing on the other end, but I didn't listen. I set my phone to reject his calls, and made sure he couldn't reach the company either. What happened to his family after that? I don't know. I never heard their names again. As for me, I'm surrounded by my loving husband and children, living happily in a warm home. While raising my kids, I help with my father's work and continue to learn. Life is an eternal study. With that belief, I'm motivated to keep going every day.